I'm Martin Rigley, I'm the Managing Director at Lindhurst Engineering. Lindhurst Engineering was formed in 1985, really to provide innovative solutions initially to UK coal mining industry, but then we've rolled out into a lot of different diverse sectors, generally towards the heavier dirty end. So we do a lot of work in construction, steel processing, green energy, and traditional forms of energy production, and some original equipment manufacturer stuff. We've developed quite a few solutions, and I call them solutions rather than being products because everyone's slightly different. The main one that we're working on at the moment is a project we've been working with Nottingham University ETC since 2009, which is on the development of what we believe is a new form of anaerobic digestion. So unlike traditional forms of anaerobic digestion where you produce a methane-rich biogas, we produce a hydrogen-rich biogas. Our system is a far smaller footprint system than traditional anaerobic digestion, which traditional AED, which is a well-established technology, basically involves taking waste organic matter, put it in a receptacle, agitating it to mix it up, and then heating it up so you get bacteria to propagate and they digest the waste material. But typically you're looking at 15 to 21 days minimum retention time. But the system that we've developed with the university is a continuous flow process where we create a set of conditions where a particular type of bacteria propagate, and we also have a mechanism that allows that bacteria to digest that much faster as well. We actually assist them in the process. So we produce a hydrogen-rich biogas. In addition to that, we also produce a fertiliser like you would with traditional anaerobic digestion. So there's two potential income streams from it. For us, the big prize with this technology we're working on now is the potential to supply into agriculture. 90% of the waste organic matter we produce in the UK comes from agriculture, and at the moment it's a massive untapped reserve. The few farmers that have adopted traditional forms of anaerobic digestion are spending typically £1 million on a plant. To get the numbers to stack up, they actually don't produce enough slurry. So they have to grow maize to supplement the slurry, and then you're getting this ethical dilemma about trading food crops for energy, and it's a huge footprint plant, normally big concrete tanks or fiberglass tanks, where our systems are far smaller footprint, faster process, and we believe that ultimately we'll be able to take a far more cost-effective solution to market that we believe that farmers will adopt. I think the main barriers to uptake of sustainable technologies, A is ignorance, because it is new technologies and people don't necessarily know how they work, and especially for us, for anaerobic digestion, I've heard other stories about people, that perception of what anaerobic digestion is, and we're going to pollute the kids, and and water courses and everything. At the end of the day, it's a technology that's been around for years. And then from a business point of view, the big issues for them is really what the risk is involved in it, and generally it's the financial risk. At the end of the day, it's new technology. People who take it on now are going to be early adopters. There's no track record for people to say, well, to prove it works. So their perception is that they are taking a risk. So as a business, we try to do what we can to de-risk that as much as we possibly can by education and demonstration of best practice. My perception is that what people are seeing is or concerned about is what happened back end of last year when government tried to take away the tariffs for solar PV, and so a lot of the technologies now have got tariffs on the back of the new technologies, and a lot of people build the business models around that, the revenue they can get via the tariffs, and so there's always the risk if all those tariffs are going to disappear, and then obviously that affects the business model that you sold it in the first place. So I think that's one of the main A, is ignorance about the technology, and B is, all right, you're going to sell me something based on a payback period, but am I going to get that payback period if halfway through government withdraw the tariff?
So what would you say to those people?
There is some evidence now that government's tried to stem that by putting out what the programme's going to be for the next few years. So at least you can have a little bit of reassurance from what the government's telling people. They have backtracked partially on the solar PV front. For us, we're trying to build a business model that negates the tariffs. So the tariffs just become the icing on the cake. What we'd like to see is people to learn from the experience that we've had. We've taken a traditional form of anaerobic digestion and come up with a solution that's a far smaller footprint unit. And so we've thought about a market and come up with a solution that's scalable for that market of a right size. So I can understand people's reluctance to adopt other forms of green energy, whether it be wind or solar, because they're limited, because they're in the middle of a city, and because there is not necessarily a solution available at the moment. So I suppose the message I'd give to suppliers of that type of equipment is look at what we've done. You know, we've thought out the box, and we've now come up with a solution that's right for that market, and that's what I'd encourage other people to do, to try and come up with other solutions that are right for the market that they're looking at, or the market that's got that demand. As an SME, you know, getting involved in this type of development work means you've either got to fund it yourself, or you've got to find other sources of funding, or a mixed solution. So for us, the project we're working on now, we're part funding it. We've managed to draw some funding down through Technology Strategy Board, which is a good source of funding for businesses to look at, especially SMEs. Technology Strategy Board's got a big drive to try and get more SMEs involved in development of new technologies. And we've also managed to get some other funding down through another support body called the Food and Drink INET, because obviously the potential for this project for food and drink. And what's been really positive for us is we've tapped into the through Nottingham University into the Knowledge Transfer Partnership Programme, which is a national programme. And we were fortunate enough to be able to secure the postgrad student who worked on development of this technology. So we've secured her services for the next 2 years through the KTP. So that's how we built up our jigsaw. We are all looking at other forms of investment, whether that's through some of the other partners we've got in the project, or potentially involved in crowdfunding or venture capitalists. They're all things that we're considering, but it is a complex model. And it's a little bit like the legislation. You've got to just stick at it and wade your way through it till you get the right solution. I think within the next 10 to 15 years we'll see a very mixed solution to how we provide energy within the UK, and it will come from probably more traditional forms of power generation like nuclear, supported by a lot of the emerging technologies. So we'll get a lot of more distributed power, and there's a lot of work going on about distributed power generation as well within the UK.
What's distributed power?
Yeah, distributed power. So instead of having lots of massive power stations dotted around the country, you actually have lots of smaller methods of generating power. What that actually does, it actually strengthens grid, because you've not got lots of you're putting the energy, you're putting the power in smaller amounts but more uniformly spread around the country. That's actually a supporting piece of work that ties in nicely with what's going on with development of green technologies. So I think ultimately, as more and more people adopt the technologies and they become more knowledgeable about the new technologies, that it will start to pick up. And there is a lot of work going on around lots of different forms of green energy power generation. There's obviously been a lot of investment in wind, especially offshore wind. But I suppose I would say this: we would like to think that ultimately the AD side becomes is equally important as the wind side. Still think solar PV won't generate as much as the AD, because there's a massive potential in the anaerobic power generation. But I've got a vested interest, so I'm bound to give that answer.